so please take your seats. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the SDG Media Zone. It is a true honor to be here at this remarkable space, a platform that since 2016 has been dedicated to amplifying voices and promoting actions for the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, in partnership with Women Economic Forum and PVBLIC Foundation, we're thrilled to host this special focused gender equality, economic empowerment, and sustainable leadership event. We have a powerful lineup of speakers, a panel and panelists who are at the forefront of driving changes. Their insights and experiences are invaluable as we work together to accelerate progress on the 2030 agenda. To officially open our program, please join me welcoming Michelle Ferrari, President of Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica.
Well, thank you all for being here. It's truly amazing for us to have made it all the way over here for this amazing event, and also for people that have traveled from many places to honor this day today for the Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica. I would also like to say that this session, hopefully everybody knows why we're here. All these pressing topics around gender equality and everything that we want to conquer around these indicators that are not what we would hope would be today. So I won't go into a lot of data, but of course we cannot afford to keep on the way we're doing for today. And we can't afford to miss the talent and the vision of leadership of women of humanity around the world for the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is just not a policy commitment. They are humanity's promise for dignity, for peace and prosperity. And without women at the center, that promise will definitely not be fulfilled. The Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica was born to amplify voices across our region, from Mexico to the Caribbean, from Central America to South America, voices of women in politics, in business, in science, in the arts. Today we bring to the United Nations a lineup of deputies, former deputies, entrepreneurs, cultural leaders, and businesswomen who are not only breaking barriers, but building bridges. What unites them is the conviction that change is possible when inclusion is real. That progress happens when women are not only at the table, but shaping the agenda. That innovation, sustainability, and growth are stronger when they are gender balanced. This is why our presence matters here today, because the SDGs demand solutions that are bold, collaborative, and inclusive. Our forum is not simply a conversation. It is an accelerator of solutions. We are sharing lessons, showcasing success stories, and creating networks that can translate into action. The UN is the place where local realities meet global commitments. Today, the reality we bring from Iberoamerica is clear. Women are ready, capable, and essential to driving the 2030 agenda forward. What we ask for is not permission, but partnership. So as we begin, I invite you to each listen, not only with your minds, but with your will to act, to see in these women and men exceptions, but the rule of what leadership can and should look like. Because achieving these sustainable development goals is not only a women's issue, of course, it is a human issue. And without women's leadership, there is no sustainable future. So thank you so much for having us here, excellencies, colleagues, and friends. Thanks for supporting the Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica. Without you, this could not be possible. Of course, our brands and our partners that are also here with us today, Interprotección, Banorte, and Gentera, as part of our lineup of partners that are making this possible. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the content and the people that we have here sharing everything for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for those inspiring words. Next, we are incredibly privileged to hear from a global leader and a true champion of multilateralism. Please welcome Maria Fernanda Espinosa, the former president of the United Nations General Assembly. Welcome.
Buenos días, good morning. Believe me that this event, I think it's very famous. There is a huge line outside of people. I don't know why, but they were showing me that they have the ticket to get in. Huge queue outside. Sometimes the UN needs renovation, modernization. But good morning to all of you, and of course, thank you so much to the Women Economic Forum, Latin America, Iberoamerica. I'm thrilled to be here. It is a true honor. To be here at the SDG Media Zone has a significance. It is important because this space was critical since 2016. And it was critical because it was the space for us to gather, to come together for advancing global action and solutions to the world's most pressing challenges. I extend my gratitude to Michelle Ferrari and the Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica, as well as the PVBLIC Foundation for really bringing us together early in the morning so we can start energized. And the SDGs, and we all know that, that's the reason why we're here. We're a shared promise of progress. They represented an unprecedented consensus that development must be universal, interconnected, and leave no one behind. 10 years later, we must admit we are far from achieving them. With just 5 years left, the latest SDG Progress Report shows only 35% of targets are on track. Nearly half are moving too slowly, and 18% have regressed. Among these 18%, just a poll, guess which is the one that we do not see strong advances. It's called SDG 5 on women's rights and gender equality, unfortunately. At the same time, development gains remain uneven. Over 800 million people live in extreme poverty. Hunger affects 1 in 11 worldwide. More than 1.12 billion people live in slums or informal settlements, and I know that firsthand as president of the Cities Alliance. 120 million people are forcibly displaced, and this doubles the number of 2015 when the goals were adopted. And aid is falling, we know it. Overseas development assistance has declined by 7% in 2024 after 5 years of growth. Further cuts are expected in 2025. And these are not just numbers, dear friends. This is a crisis of solidarity. Development gains remain uneven. Over 800 million people live in extreme poverty. And as I mentioned, the advances on gender equality are not touched by women and girls on the ground. Women-led initiatives, however, are driving innovation and entrepreneurship. They strengthen financial independence, they fuel economic growth, and they build resilient communities. What is that we can do? Because we are excellent on analysis and on understanding what is happening in the world. But what is that we need to do together? First, the recommitment to multilateralism. The recent SDG report progress urges increased international cooperation and sustained investment to turn the ambition of the 2030 agenda into a reality. No government or sector can solve these challenges alone. By the way, I really like the motto of the new president of the General Assembly, the number 5 in 80 years of history. And basically her motto is better together, better together. Just to refresh my own memory, my motto when I was president was making the UN relevant for all, and it's still true these days. As I was saying, no government or sector can solve these challenges alone. We need collective action and strategic alliances across governments, civil society, foundations and philanthropies, and of course, businesses. The private sector is essential for unlocking capital and transforming financial ecosystems. The UN remains the only universal forum where national interest can align with the common good of humanity, where companies and the private sector can come together with private community, public sector and with local communities. The number 2 is a profound and structural reform of the United Nations. The United Nations must not only endure, it must evolve, it must transform itself. Efficiency, transparency, accountability are urgent. The 80th anniversary alongside of the Pact of the Future and the UN80 initiatives allow us to modernize the organization, to revitalize the United Nations. Reform must happen, and it must happen now. The third is women in leadership, of course. The persistent underrepresentation of women weakens global governance. By August 2025, only 29 countries had a woman as head of state or government, up only slightly from 22 5 years ago. In the private sector, and you know that better than I do, women in managerial roles will reach just 32% by 2050. When women lead, we do not just see different outcomes, we see different priorities, different processes, and a broader vision of the common good. We see women in action, women in leadership making the difference. I know that, I have seen it firsthand. And the number 4th is to unlock the economic potential of equality. Closing gender gaps is not only a moral obligation, it is a financial opportunity of historic scale. With the right investments, 52 million women and girls could escape extreme poverty by 2030. This could unlock 4 trillion in benefits by 2030 and 342 trillion by 2050. To achieve this, global government spending must rise by 22 trillion by 2030 and 233 trillion by 2050. And I promise I didn't make up these numbers. That's what the experts say, what UN Women says. So bridging the gender digital divide is also a growth driver, and you know it. Today, less than 29% of women in least developed countries are online compared to 41% of men. Closing this gap could generate 1.5 trillion for the global economy by 2030 and over 100 trillion by 2050. And we must end violence against women. Ending such violence has measurable economic returns. Violence undermines productivity, limits participation, and costs societies billions. Of course, this goes beyond the human rights, the well-being, and the dignity of women and girls around the world. Evidence shows that a 10% increase in financial inclusion reduces intimate partner violence by about 2%. Ensuring women's safety and agency is therefore not only a matter of rights, but of growth, of stability, of well-being for all. This year, as we all know, especially women, We mark 30 years since the Beijing Platform for Action. It is a moment to recommit. We need new financing models, stronger coalitions, better data, and institutions that allow women to thrive and lead. We live in a time of converging crises. Meeting them requires responses rooted in care, in accountability, and courage. Today's agenda, combining voices of impact with business leadership, shows the path forward. It beautifully illustrates the multi-sectoral approach we need to succeed. To move beyond siloed efforts and embrace strategic partnerships, the kind that unlock capital and transform ecosystems. The private sector, as well as we will hear in the second panel, must integrate the SDGs into business models. This is not only corporate responsibility, but also about proving that sustainability and profitability can go hand in hand. We need companies to lead with purpose, promoting social innovation and responsive leadership. Let us leave this room today not just inspired, but with renewed commitments to act. Let us continue to build a world where every person has the opportunity to lead, to innovate, and to be an agent of change. I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you again, Michelle, to you and your great team. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fernanda, for that powerful message. Our next speaker is a leader in promoting diversity and inclusion at the highest level of government. She is the Chief Diversity Officer for the State of New York. Please welcome Julissa Gutierrez.
Good morning. Buenos dias. On behalf of Governor Kathy Hochul, the 57th Governor of the State of New York, it is my honor to welcome all of you today at the Women's Economic Forum Iberoamerica here at the United Nations. My name is Julissa Gutierrez, and I have the privilege of serving as New York State's Chief Diversity Officer, a position established in state law, statute, and created to ensure that equity is not an aspiration, but an expectation of state government. I am also the proud daughter of immigrant parents from Colombia, from Bogota, and I am also a daughter of Queens, the world's borough, right across the East River. And these identities shape who I am, how I lead, and how I connect with the communities I serve. I want to begin by thanking the conveners of this powerful gathering. My gratitude goes to Maca and Patricia, who connected me here today, my Hope Hermanas, and to Michelle Ferrari, President of the World Economic Forum, Iberoamerica. And I also want to recognize Maria Fernanda Espinosa, former President of the United Nations General Assembly, and along with all of you distinguished panelists and guests. This is more than just a gathering. As Maria Fernanda said, it is a call to action. We are here to shine a light on the critical role women play in innovation, entrepreneurship, and leadership, and how these contributions advance the Sustainable Development Goals. But let me say this, the SDGs are not just international objectives, they are local imperatives, a blueprint that New York State lives by every single day. They remind us that equity and sustainability must be woven into the fabric of our everyday life, from healthcare and education to housing, technology, and economic opportunity. As New York State's Chief Diversity Officer, I know firsthand how vital representation and inclusive leadership are. When women are at the table, and especially when women lead, we all benefit. Our perspectives, our lived experiences, and our resilience shape solutions that are more just, more inclusive, and more sustainable. As has been said, Women are at the center of local and global change, and it matters when we lead. Public service for me is a privilege, and is not only about policymaking, but it's also about being entrusted to serve and protect the people who count on us. And in New York, under the leadership of our first female governor of the state of New York, Kathy Hochul, that service comes with a fierce commitment to women and girls, to their health, their affordability, and their safety. Governor Hochul has broken barriers in our state's history, and in doing so, she has opened doors wider for the generations that follow. Through New York State's Minority and Women Business Entrepreneurship Program, we are expanding access to state contracts, mentorship, and financing. We are also investing in inclusive and innovative ecosystems. We are supporting accelerators, incubators, and entrepreneurship hubs because equity matters and it must be built into the foundation of our economy. And we recognize here in New York that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. A powerful example is Micron's historic investment in Syracuse in upstate New York. This is not only about building one of the largest semiconductor facilities in the world, and a great example of public and private partnership, it is also about ensuring that the ecosystem surrounding it is inclusive, that we are lifting women, people of color, immigrant communities into these opportunities that are affordable because of this investment. Yes, Micron's arrival is exciting, but we are ensuring that the infrastructure projects that are making the facilities happen are also coming with new housing, modern transit, clean water systems, and so much more. Accessible childcare, for example. And these are transformational public investments that touch every sector of your life. And as the first mom governor of New York, and also abuela, she has two grandchildren, Governor Hochul carries with her lived experience of what it means to balancing caregiving and leadership. She's governing with urgency and empathy. She understands what it is to raise children while leading, and to worry about affordability, and to demand systems that actually work for us. And this is why New York continues to be a safe haven for reproductive rights. When abortion came under attack early this year, we acted decisively. We enshrined protections in our state constitution. For example, we passed law allowing abortion medication to be prescribed without a doctor's name on the label, because even in New York, providers were being targeted. And when Louisiana's governor demanded the extradition of a New York doctor, we said no chance. And that is women's leadership in action. And a few more highlights I want to share. We've also made historic investments to make New York the best place to raise a family. We've tripled the size of our child care tax credit. We've expanded free school meals statewide. And we have invested more than $7 billion in child care since Governor Hochul has taken office, and it's only been 4 years. This alone means that we have committed more than $2.2 billion to expand child care access and $110 million to strengthen facilities in child care deserts. So again, these wins are not policy abstract ideas, but they are truly lifelines to mothers and children. Again, I want to make sure that we're also standing firm in this moment. I want to acknowledge the moment, the challenging moment that we're living in, that we New Yorkers find ourselves, particularly in the field that I lead. Across the country, the work of diversity, equity, and inclusion is being politicized and distorted to stall or stop policies and programs that create opportunities for all. The federal government has issued executive orders that falsely categorize diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts as illegal. And it is the power of the executive branch to sow doubt and create confusion about the purpose and the legality of this work. Let me be clear, our work is legal, and our work is essential, and our work will continue. And I am very proud of that. We will not back away from fairness. We will not compromise on equity. We are unwavering because we know that this is not about politics. This is about people, real New Yorkers, real businesses, and real communities. We are moving forward and firmly committed to ensuring that progress includes everyone, all of you, Latinos, immigrants, women, workers, and families. Today's theme, Voices of Impact, Collective Action for Gender Equality and Empowerment, reminds us that no single leader, policy, or initiative can do this work. And it requires, progress requires partnership. And it requires to see one another, to uplift one another, and to unite across borders, across cities, across states, sectors, and experiences. This is also deeply personal to me. I think often about my own family and community, daughters of immigrants, caregivers, workers, family of a mixed immigration status, for example, in this country, who have sacrificed so much and were rarely seen in the rooms where decisions were made or are being made today. My presence here is a testament to them and to the power of opening doors for those who come after us and who are coming with us, to be honest. So let us commit ourselves, un compromiso, to ensuring women are not just present, but leading. And let us continue to be pioneers of change, shaping the future with innovation, resilience, and unity. Together, we're not only achieving progress, but we are redefining what is possible. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you, Julissa, for sharing your vision. Now, we move to our first high-level panel titled Voices of Impact, Collective Actions for Gender Equality and Empowerment. This panel will explore how women are leading initiatives that foster financial independence, inclusive economic growth, and progress on the SDGs. We will hear how strategic partnerships are unlocking capital and transforming ecosystems to drive sustainable development. Please welcome our distinguished panelist and moderator, Michelle Ferrari, President of Women Economic Forum Iberoamerica. Altagracia Gomez Sierra, President of Grupo PEO, a business leader known for her strategic vision and innovation. And Maria Ternal, an independent board member with extensive experience in digital and technology sectors.
Well, it's such an honor to have both of you ladies here on stage. I know you have so much to share with us from all of your experience, of course, from different sectors and coming from different things you both have done in your lives. A lot to do with technology, so we'll hear your pioneering on that too, Mariate. And of course, you, Altagracia, as an incredible businesswoman, but also involved in things that have to do with the government and private sector. So I'll start off with you, Altagracia. I would like to know, I mean, hearing these speeches for this morning, a lot of things still need to be done, of course, and it's a lot of work in progress of trying to advance in our goals for the SDGs and, of course, for a better world. But if you could share with us what you've seen is the best, or what is a case of the strategies that have proven to be most effective in promoting women's financial independence and fostering inclusive economic growth. Yeah, so we have the timer right there, so we're good.
So it is I'm very happy to be here with Patti, with you, Mariate.
You're a true supporter, by the way. You've always supported us, so thank you.
And so listen, when it comes to advancing women inclusion, women financial independence, and particularly women leadership or women transition towards decision-making positions, whether it's politics, whether it's business, whether it's even family or community-oriented decision-making. There's a couple of things that need to be addressed. And we like to divide them into 4 things that are the inalienable pillars of building up women leadership. And that has to do with education. And when we say education, it's not just formal education. No, it is not just that the women are able to go all the way, college, high school, and all of those battles that they entitle, specifically in certain regions within the world and the country that are still harmed by teenage pregnancies, by care, family care of our parents or grandparents or whatnot. No, so the first thing is education, and we always say when we're talking about building or bridging the wage gap, we need to be also speaking about how we bridge the dream gap. Because about 12, 13 years of age, when women are teenagers, you stop dreaming of becoming an engineer, a president, a company CEO and whatnot. And there is things that have to do with education, and then there's also, we need to be fomenting aspirations to women. They can be mothers, and we should be encouraging that is what they wish. But not only can they be mothers, they could be whatever they want to be. The second thing is we should be promoting women leadership. And so when you ask a boy or a girl in Mexico to name one business leader that they look up to, 9 out of 10 they can tell you a man business leader. These 9 out of 10 children can also not tell you any business leader that is a woman. Yeah. And we have wonderful, wonderful examples of women business leaders in Mexico. And I bet it's the same in the US. I bet it's the same in Europe, where you can name 2 or 3 business leaders that are that embody the values you'd like, that embody aspirationally what you'd like to become. And so in promoting women leadership, whether it's in business, sports and culture and politics, you're also giving kids something to aspire to. And giving kids a hero and giving kids a mentor is important in order to grow that. The third thing is collaboration in public policy. And public policy is probably the most important equalizer for women, leadership, women independence. And there is where we talk about what we want as a caring system. You know, what we should be wanting as inclusive policies, whether it's in feminine products and VATs that are associated to that, whether it's in non-recognized labor that women are making and whatnot. And the last one is, and maybe also critical, is you need investment. And this cannot just be talk. It cannot just be good examples. It cannot just be public actions. Policy. Yeah. We need concrete investment. And investment in women doesn't look like charity. It looks like good business. It looks like something convenient. And the best policies have been those that are the most convenient, whether it's for companies, whether it's for countries, whether it's for communities. And you can see it in advisory boards that are more diverse. Not only gender diverse, but age diverse and the different life perspectives. They're usually the most innovative enterprises, but they're also the most resilient. Yeah. And so those are the 4 pillars we see in fomenting women leadership.
Super. Yeah, that's a great answer. And I think it's a lot of the things you said here are obviously very in parallel, you know. It's not just one of them. They run like side by side. So definitely not easy things either, because of course there's this thing called investment where we are.
But they're also not hard.
They're not hard, but you know, they're harder to reach, I guess, without the investment piece that sometimes is not part of a strategic agenda, right? As you said, sometimes it seems more like a charity work than something that's going to make an economic progress. So I think that's where, you know, trying to deal with the impact, as Maria Fernanda was saying also, the impact on the GDP would be $1 trillion if we would make this work. So it's better for all of us, no? So going into your kind of world, Mariette, looking into the future, what would you say, or what would you consider would be the boldest and most necessary action to scale the impact of women leaders globally?
Well, I think you're all expecting a very technological answer here, but that's not where I'm going to go.
The next question is a little more technological.
Yeah, I know, but I think that the boldest thing we can do right now is keep our voices loud, because in this environment, a lot of people are retracting from the, Julissa was very clear about that, from the commitments and the kind of work that needs to be done, and I think we need to hold firmly in the belief that this is not only the right thing to do from a fairness perspective and equal opportunity perspective, but also the right thing to do from an economic perspective. And I think that needs support, and I think we all the speakers previously touched on this. I'm just going to introduce a word that it is very related to technology, which is systems thinking. And I think that we have to keep kind of a systems thinking approach to solving this problem. It's not a siloed kind of approach. And, you know, we've kind of gotten into this gender lens way of doing this, and I think we need to take a step back and think, how do we redesign care systems? How do we redefine access to capital from a perspective that's more inclusive? And this needs to be rethought from how does the system work, not only how do we make women fit into the current system, which is very
That's a great
difficult.
point.
It's a very difficult.
That's a great point.
We need to continue. So this is where innovation comes, right? But we'll get to that later.
It's not getting us to the table. It's doing a new table.
Yeah, it's changing the way it works.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you think about let's think about women in boards, right? That's something I'm very familiar with because I do a lot of board work these days. You know, a lot of people think that having someone sitting in the table, oh, I have a woman, I check the list. Yes, I see your eyes rolling. I love that because we've all experienced that. And it's not about having women in the table. It's about how the table works. So how do we make this a process where we're all included, we all have a voice, and we're basically really adding
influence.
Yeah,
Influence at the table.
Exactly, but for that to happen, and it has happened to me. I have the fortune of sitting in a board where the chairperson is very, very, very intentional about this, and it's a he, by the way, the chairperson in this particular board. He makes sure every voice in the room is heard, no matter who you are or where you come from, or even if the topic relates to your experience. And he's making sure that the way that that table works is different beyond having women or any other kind of diversity checklist sitting on that table.
Yeah, and have the opportunity to raise your voice also demands psychological safety, of course, because if they're not making that happen, then the voices are not
absolutely
coming out. Yeah.
You need to build that trust.
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure. So, Altagracia, if you could tell us or share with us in your experience, we've talked about the importance of these strategic alliances, but if you could share with us your thoughts around making these ecosystems that Marietta was talking about, rebuild them or make new ones from scratch, basically, because trying to fit us in is obviously harder, or it's something that's causing so much resistance it's taking longer to do, just because of the way the culture has become, how history has been. But how would you say this ecosystem can be built with government being present and with a private initiative?
So, about 2 years ago, when now President Sheinbaum was candidate, we spoke on what public policy would be like for economic development within the country. And we got together and said, we need 3 convictions to work for us and not against us. The first one is we'll reshape the way in which private initiative, government, and education work together. Because if industrial policy is back, we needed to have a comeback that transforms economy into one that includes women, young people, small and medium businesses in southeastern part of the country, but also innovation with R&D goals and technology transfer goals, sustainability, digitalization as a form of inclusion in regional vocations. 2, we need to have a country vision that is not limited to a government plan, and that is where Plan Mexico comes from, and I'll address the specific goals that tend to go towards this transforming the ecosystem. And we need to understand that the world has changed, that there's a new way to understand globalization, but there's also a new way to understand a market economy. And in this market economy, free trade must also mean fair trade on the one hand, but it is also accepted that the government can also create certain policies to foment not only economic problems, but also environmental problems,
of course,
but also social problems, that have an economic solution towards them. And so we came up with this Plan Mexico. And for those of you guys that don't know, Plan Mexico is a long-term vision for the country that has 13 goals in 10 priority sectors. And again, they're all looking for inclusion, innovation, sustainability, regional vocation. And when you look at goal number 1 and goal number 13, they're the most ambitious, the most general. We want to be one of the top 10 economies in the world. We're currently number 12. And we want to be a country with less poverty and less inequality. And when you look at the numbers in poverty and inequality, you'll see that women, particularly in rural areas, are still the most targeted people within that. And so that is why there was a specific social program towards those women, towards jornaleras, towards women that work in maquilas also. And then you look at goals 2 to 12, and that's how you get there. And so you need about 25% of your GDP to be investment by 2026. You need your 150,000 graduates from engineers and STEM careers yearly to go into priority sectors. And then you also have a huge opportunity for women, no? Because most of these graduates are men.
It's the future, which is now.
And they're going to the priority sector.
Yeah.
So there you have very specific actions you need to be doing there, no? You look at the 50% of your textile, shoe, furniture, your small and medium businesses need to be local content. Small and medium businesses in Mexico are usually led by women, women that have no access to finance. Yeah. So you go to the next goal, and the next goal is that 30% of small and medium businesses will have access to some form of credit, and that specifically targets women. No, you look at the government purchases, that's 5% of your GDP, and that is supposed to be a leverage of economic regional development. So you'll specify that the women have an upgrade, no, to get there. Small and medium businesses have points in order to get into those public bid process, etc. Tourism is one of the main priority sectors. Why is tourism a priority sector? It's the first employer of women in Mexico, second of young people.
Yep.
And so when you look at the 13 goals, each goal has a specific,
has a gender lens.
But it has a specific goal of where women could have a leading role in transforming the economy to become one of the 10 biggest ones in the world, and to become a country with less poverty and less inequality. And Plan Mexico is not understood without women leadership, no, because it was conceived by women, and it is by 2026. You need your 150,000 graduates from engineers and STEM careers yearly to go into priority sectors. And then you also have a huge opportunity for women, no? Because most of these graduates are men.
It's the future, which is now.
And they're going to the priority sector.
Yeah.
So there you have very specific actions you need to be doing there, no? You look at the 50% of your textile, shoe, furniture, your small and medium businesses need to be local content. Small and medium businesses in Mexico are usually led by women, women that have no access to finance. So you go to the next goal, and the next goal is that 30% of small and medium businesses will have access to some form of credit, and that specifically targets women. No, you look at the government purchases, that's 5% of your GDP, and that is supposed to be a leverage of economic regional development. So you'll specify that the women have an upgrade, no, to get there. Small and medium businesses have points in order to get into those public bid process, etc. Tourism is one of the main priority sectors. Why is tourism a priority sector? It's the first employer of women in Mexico, second of young people.
Yep.
And so when you look at the 13 goals, each goal has a specific,
Has a gender lens.
But it has a specific goal of where women could have a leading role in transforming the economy to become one of the 10th biggest ones in the world, and to become a country with less poverty and less inequality. And Plan Mexico is not understood without women leadership, no, because it was conceived by women, and it is targeted for women, but also for the business community in Mexico, for the education community in Mexico, and for families in Mexico, because businesses in Mexico are family businesses.
Yeah. Well, like Julissa was saying, no, in New York also the small and medium companies are the backbone, just like I guess in Mexico City. And obviously women, the more women we have formally in the economy is obviously a big issue in Mexico as well, to get them there, right? And you mentioned a point that's very interesting about the type of education women should be studying in terms of engineering. You talked about 150,000 slots that if they're not studying a certain career, they're not going to get them. There's no future if you're not in one of these STEM careers.
There's future. I wouldn't say there's no future.
Well, not in those 150,000.
I was just highlighting that Mexico is the 6th country with most engineer graduates in the world.
But not women.
You have more engineers per capita than the United States.
Wow.
Right? You have double than Brazil.
I hope they don't leave us all to go somewhere else.
And you have about 300,000 STEM graduates a year. And so we need to have them, push them towards employability in present strategic sectors, but also our future strategic sectors.
And also more women, right?
And we need to bridge
women
that gap.
believing they can do that. Because you mentioned in your first question.
To do it, no? We want them to be inspired.
Of course, and not lose the thought that you can be, right? So that's a great point as well. So Mariate, what role does innovation have? We're looking into innovation, whether it's technological, it can be financial or social. How does this play in advancing the SDGs and promoting women's empowerment within the private sector?
Well, innovation is the name of the game. There's no other way. If we want to change things, we do that through innovation. Innovation is the enabler of this, for this to happen. If you look at, the way you just laid that question out, if you look at technology and the role of technology here, technology basically should give access. So that's how, and I say should because it's not necessarily doing it, but technology should bridge that access and the geographical part of this. I was just listening to Fatima, who's doing business around the world, and I'm pretty sure that technology has, from Mexico, and I'm sure technology has a lot to do with that. But there's also a risk in technology where, given that technology is a tool, that is used by humans, the human bias is being translated to the technology. So we need to be very careful about how this continues to evolve, and particularly in AI, that has become so pervasive now, and where a lot of biases is being, so we need to be very loud about this. You know, technology has to be an enabler, has to bridge that gap. We need to make sure that biases are taken care of. In terms of financial innovation, I mean, we already talked about access to capital. This is key. There is no way we're gonna change the landscape of the SDGs, in particular, not only women, but all the SDGs, if we can't use financial innovation. And I think tech, of course, plays a role here, but it's also about how we think the systems differently so we can give access more generally and more equitably. And then I think there's this social innovation part that you were mentioning, which for me is about the mindset. And this is the hardest part. Last night I was in this event where, a non-for-profit was presenting their project, which is schools in rural areas around the world that actually take care of the fact that girls in many countries, including Mexico, in the southeast of Mexico, do not go to school because girls do not belong in school. They belong at home. Yeah. So changing this mindset, it's also about innovation, and this is where social innovation for me comes into play, and it's probably the most difficult one because it
has to do with the parents
culture
as well, right?
Sorry?
It has to do with the way they're educated by their parents.
Yeah, absolutely. It has to do, it's a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. And this is where we need to keep pushing, and where our voices, I go back to my first point, the boldest thing here is to keep our voices loud right now. So I think that, if we won't change the outcome if we keep doing the same thing, basically. So innovation is key to thinking this differently.
Yeah, so
it's the way to go.
Yeah.
No other way.
So if I could ask you about technology, obviously you mentioned that technology has to be very focused on enhancing the human performance. But what about accessibility? How much of the world has accessibility? Because I think women...
We heard Maria Fernanda. She gave a very good point. 41% of women have access to technology. And this is, again, think about the system. So women don't use technology because we're afraid of technology. We think we're not good at technology. We think we're not good at engineering. It's a cultural thing. Since we're small, we're being told that we can't do this. This is like a man's world. And then you don't have the role models. You can't see... You can't be what you can see. So it's the system. So you have to address it from a system
perspective. But also connectivity. The connectivity issue, I was more trying to focus on the connectivity.
But I don't think that connectivity is an issue that prevents women from getting to technology. I mean, the connectivity is an issue for more of a kind of geographical and
or the
rural and access in terms of how affordable it is, right? In our country, it's not very affordable still, so I'm hoping that's part of Plan Mexico. Okay, but I wouldn't necessarily. I don't have data about this, but I wouldn't necessarily think that this is a women exclusive thing. It's more of the cultural shift in yes, we can be engineers. Yes, the computer is not going to explode. Yes, we can do this. And we need women to be embedded in the system.
Of course.
Because otherwise AI is going to continue and
being
exponentially...
Yeah. Masculine perspective.
The problems are going to be exponential otherwise, because AI is just going to make this more exponential. So we need this. We need women here to, and we need the parents to foster this. And so again, system, which is hard.
Okay, so we got around 20 seconds for our closing quote. These are all very interesting things. So Altagracia, if you could describe in one single word for you what it means to see more women in decision-making political positions, what would that word be?
I'd say in Mexico, it's women's time in Mexico, and I think it's Mexico's moment in the world.
Super. How about yours, Mariate? One word or
my word would
or a
be
couple
hope.
of words.
Hope. Yes, hope. And I want to leave it in a high note. Hope.
Well, I've really enjoyed moderating this panel. You ladies are full of wonderful content. I hope everybody else enjoyed it as well. And we'll give the next panel that's welcoming to the stage. And we'll get a picture.
Thank you. Thank you very much, panelists, for that insightful and inspiring discussion. We now have the honor of hearing from another keynote leader. He is the C5 coordinator for Mexico City, playing a crucial role in leveraging technology for security and public service. Please join me in welcoming Salvador Guerrero.
Good morning, everyone. I'm proud to say that I belong to a couple of families that come from Jalisco, Michoacán in Mexico that have been fighting violence and poverty for decades. So I belong to that tradition, even when I belong, properly speaking, to Mexico City, culturally and politically. I would say that my families have defined what I am today. So. I am deeply grateful to Michelle Ferrari, President of the World Economic Forum Iberoamerica, and Patricia Gonzalez for inviting me to participate in this event. I would like to offer a prayer to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. Let me begin with a reference to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 16. It calls on us to promote peaceful and inclusive societies, guarantee access to justice, and strengthen institutions that confront violence, corruption, and crime. This vision is not only inspiring. This vision is not only inspiring, it is an urgent mandate for every government, every city, every community. It is about building social trust, reducing structural inequality, and recognizing that violence is not only fought with force, but also with strong institutions, civic culture, and environments of well-being. We have had 8 decades in which women's participation has become central in diplomacy, in international organizations, justice movements, peace processes, and also in politics, in institutions, in everyday life. Women have played a leading role in negotiations, in peace building, in promoting equality. Think of the peace agreements in Colombia, demobilization of women in Liberia, or the Rwanda reconstruction. Gender equality cannot be separated from universal human rights. They are also two sides of the same coin. Without equality, there is no peace, there is no country, there is no sustainable progress that implies economic development. Mexico is joining in with concrete, tangible actions. Under the leadership of 2 remarkable women, President Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo and Mexico City Governor Clara Brugada Molina, we have made progress in reducing poverty, closing educational gaps, reforming laws, and strengthening institutions. Some hard data. According to recent figures, more than 8 million people were lifted out of multidimensional poverty, with the poverty rate falling from 36% to 29%. Extreme poverty also declined, although challenges remain, such as social deprivation and irregular access to health care or social security. These numbers represent a historic advance. In terms of education, some of the gender gaps have been narrowed. Today, girls have enrollment rates very close to those to boys and the primary and secondary levels, thanks to policies promoting school retention, scholarships, and reforms that allow for flexibility, such as the right of girls to wear pants as part of the uniform. It's a very powerful message in Mexico, which is today, even today, a machista society. These changes may seem small for some, but they transform freedom, dignity, and self-esteem from childhood onward. Equality and equity are also evident in the legislative and judicial branches. The Chamber of Deputies currently has 251 women out of 500, representing more than 50% of the total number of deputies. The same in the Senate. There are 128 female senators, equivalent to 51% of the total. The recent reform of the judiciary system has allowed the Supreme Court to now have 5 female justices and 4 male justices, a balance that shows that women's political power is not exceptional but structural. And 13 women hold the governorship of 32 states, including the national capital. Without going any further, we have Claudia Sheinbaum as the first female president. The coming years will test our ability to keep the course, but they will also open up new opportunities. In 2026, when the world looks to Mexico for soccer, we wanted also to see a country capable of building safe, inclusive, and resilient cities. Soccer is always also a social mirror, and just as women have conquered spaces on the field and among fans, they will also be part of the organization, security, and decision-making at the World Cup. The World Cup also has a connection to our topic. This sport, which has so often been a symbol of inequality, is now a field where women are breaking new ground. From the playing field to the coaching and fandom, women and soccer are also part of the equality and safety agenda. Soccer in 2026 even offers us another opportunity. Looking ahead to the World Cup, Mexico City will not only be the host city, but also the technological control center that will guarantee the security of the tournament. However, it's not possible to talk about security in Mexico without addressing the fight against drug trafficking, one of the harshest expressions of organized crime. Data from the Federal Security Secretariat show the progress made. More than 27,000 people arrested for their alleged involvement in high-impact crimes. At least 50 drug traffickers sent to the United States to stand trial, and more than 2 tons of fentanyl seized. These numbers reflect not only financial blows to the cartels, but also Mexico's genuine commitment to hemispheric security. After talking about equality, poverty reduction, and the fight against drug trafficking, the question is inevitable. How can we translate all of this into safe cities for everyday life? The answer is technology applied to service of citizens. The Command, Control, Computing, Communications, and Sitting Center, or C5, is the tool that articulates prevention, response, interinstitutional